for like roughly a 36 catch season, which would have just been awesome for him. I mean,
Yeah, that would have been great for him for sure.
yeah,
I mean, he's never had as many as 20 yet, so
yeah, yeah. Well, they're gonna get him there now. Come hell or high water, they're gonna get him there now.
right.
Possibly.
I had to press the big red button, boys, because it's past time. We only have our monster guests for shorter period of time than we like to have him on when he comes into the district. But guys, tonight a very fantasy friendly matchup, one we're all excited for. Cincinnati, Miami, and it's that time of year for me. I don't know about you guys, but 4 weeks in, after 4 weeks of football, I feel like I finally have a decent sample size where I can start, kind of figuring out big moves with teams versus overreacting earlier in the first couple seasons. I got to give a quick RIP to Coolio, one of the OGs. Maybe showing my age here, but back in the 90s, rocking a couple good beats. And we got a big show tonight, guys. We got a big guest. Zach Krueger, one of our favorites from Rotoworld, is back in the district. Let's get to it.
Go district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? We're back for another Thursday Tailgate, getting you warmed up before a big matchup tonight. And we've got our buddy, Zachary Krueger, fresh off of a fresh dew. Yes. You know him from NBC Sports Edge. Zach, welcome back, brother. We love having you. Appreciate you jumping on tonight.
Yeah, I love it whenever I'm getting the work done early in the morning and I get someone sliding into my DMs from Goat District asking if I can hop on. It always gets me hyped up. You guys know I love coming on here and chatting ball with you guys for a little bit. So I think this is my first Thursday night show. I'm not sure if I did one last year, so I'm pretty stoked to be on here with you guys.
Yeah, same
we
for
appreciate
us,
Yeah,
it's
sorry,
awesome.
Dan. And we have Andrew joining us tonight from not in La Quinta. He is in the south end of the states. How's it doing down there, buddy? You avoiding some bad weather or everything good there?
Yeah, no, all good on my end. I was trying to give Dan a Jacksonville geography lesson earlier today about how the where Jacksonville sits, northeast corner of Florida, is it's hard to have a direct hit hurricane here because either it crosses the state from the west and it dies down, or it hits southern the state and dies down, but not often direct hit. So obviously people southwest Florida, not as lucky. Northeast Florida, where I am, pretty lucky. A lot of flooding, a lot of power out at the beaches. But, I'm not that rich. 25 minutes inland, so no problems here. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, but all good and happy to be here.
Kept your power the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Somebody was telling me how you can run a generator through the dryer vent. Have you guys heard about this? And basically, you can power your whole house, but it's extremely illegal, as I understand, because then you're sending power back through the grid when the linemen don't expect there to be power. And I just looked at somebody, I was like, if you think I even remotely know what you're talking about, how to do this, you're kidding. I'm not that manly of a man to know how to run my whole house off a generator through a dryer.
I'm actually looking at getting a generator because our local power grid is not the greatest, and we're out here, on the wooded acreage, and so when it gets dark out here, it gets mighty dark.
Yeah. So if you're gonna run the generator, don't run it through the dryer plug.
No. It would. We'll hook it up the right way.
Shelly, you sound like me when my father-in-law, Mr. Contractor, starts telling me how to fix something or do something. I'm like, dude, I'm in sales, bro. These hands are I play hockey with them, and that's about it.
It's like I understood every word you said individually, but how to put them together, I have no idea.
Right.
All right, guys, let's talk football. We have a big one tonight. Zach, I know you're pumped for this one. Let's go back to last week, though. Another fun week. The NFL loves throwing curveballs at us. What's the biggest lesson you learned last week, buddy?
Man, I was actually reading this question, and as I was filling out the show sheet, this was the one I had the toughest time with. I think I'm just going to kind of land on, like, the Jacksonville Jaguars might actually be for real. Like, they might actually be a legitimate team. Yeah, shout out to Andrew. Yeah, this was planned. No, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence, 3 touchdowns, 262 yards, like, looks legit. James Robinson, I don't think there's any doubt that he's back at this point in time. 100 yards, 5.9 yards per carry was just insane. Chargers were obviously probably down a little bit with Justin Herbert playing with a busted up rib cage or whatever, but the Jaguars should actually be 3-0. I said this a couple of weeks ago. The week 1 loss to Washington was really just they ended up on the bad side of Carson Wentz playing hero ball, and we know that doesn't always work out in Wentz's favor. This one time it happened to, and that's really why they're 2-1 at this point in time. But Jacksonville should be a 3-0 team. So I would say that this win over the Chargers, I believe it was on the road, correct, in Los Angeles. I mean, good road win by them. Whether or not Herbert was at full strength, I would say last year if Herbert wasn't at full strength, we would still have expected them to lose this game. So the fact that they won 38-10 is pretty big deal.
So Zach, like the profesh you are, you just go beautifully into the next question, because I got a question about one of the receivers in Jacksonville, Christian Kirk. I mean, again, you don't see a lot of other pieces there that would be fighting or necessarily prioritizing ahead of him for targets. How do you see moving forward? Do you see him keeping up? He's been scoring some serious points, around 20 fantasy points in PPR so far in the first 3 weeks. Are you looking to keep this guy, or do you think, maybe you need a running back or something? You see a nice deal on a Kittle or something in a tight end premiums. Do you try to sell Kirk while he's high, or do you think this is a long-term piece that we can hold on to?
Yeah, Christian Kirk is interesting to me because he's actually been hyper efficient. Honestly, for the fact that he's the PPR wide receiver 6 overall. If you're looking at points per game basis, he's a wide receiver 7. Incredibly impressive. But then if you look at some of his other numbers, he's 18th in targets, 17th in receptions, 8th in receiving yards, obviously good, and then 3rd in touchdowns. So he's been hyper efficient in terms of his point scoring. He's currently the wide receiver 12 in overall fantasy points over expectation. But the thing is, I think that Jacksonville is still going to kind of make it a point to prioritize him in some of the crucial areas of the field. That's why they brought him in and made him he's probably still the most overpaid wide receiver in fantasy outside of Kenny Galladay. But nevertheless, I mean, they're using him, and he's doing great, and he's been efficient, and he's scoring. So touchdowns aren't sticky, which maybe does open up the opportunity to kind of get rid of him. But even as a top 24 wide receiver, which I do think he could be that, where people were drafting him this past year, like, he'd be a value as a top 24 wide receiver. So if the right opportunity opens itself, then maybe you could look to deal him for another position in need. But I was looking earlier at the RotoViz strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. Both quarterback and wide receiver have about middle of the road strength of schedule, and then running back quarterback and wide receiver have middle of the road, and then running back they actually have second easiest strength of schedule as of right now. So I mean that's pretty good all things considered, and Kirk has certainly been firing out the gate. So he's been a tremendous value, even if he dips down to the top 24 wide receiver. He's still a steal based on where he was going in drafts.
Dan, how do you the chat just pumping tonight? Matthew asking, I know this is something you talked about in the preseason, running backs with specific injuries. Does this break the stigma for you, or is this something you're careful with moving forward?
No, it's still something I'm careful with moving forward. As I just said in the chat, once is a fluke, twice could be a pattern. We don't know. We have a whole lot of running backs who haven't been able to come back, and we have James Robinson who has. Jury's still out on Cam Akers, I guess. So, buyer beware is what I'd still say.
Yeah. I'll just touch on this real quick because I haven't gotten to be on a show where anyone's asked this question. But Marlon Mack, who's getting hyped up about him right now after he's returned off an Achilles? Deontay Foreman, who I know came back and he's been a usable football player, but I don't think anyone's confusing Deontay Foreman for being a good running back at this point in time. Whereas there was a time when he was first entering the league, I think he was a 3rd round draft pick with Houston. People thought Deontay Foreman could be a potential, bell cow back or at least an early down grinder, and he's never really
about him. I thought he was underrated. For sure.
Yeah, he was going to replace Lamar Miller, and everyone was excited about him. So we still have enough people out there who feel, dude, we're 3 weeks in. We are 3 weeks in, and I'm not a doctor. I'd be curious to know about whether or not the severity of a torn Achilles can determine whether or not these players bounce back as quickly as they do. So I mean, yeah, I would say jury's still out. We didn't consider this for years and years and years just to have James Robinson and Cam Akers come and undo it.
Look at that. I got the mosquito. Look at that.
Yes.
Right
there. Nice.
Bam! Bam! Get out of my studio, bro. All right.
Body chopped him.
Let me ask you guys a quick one here. Christian Kirk or Leonard Fournette? If you need a running back, you send Christian Kirk for Fournette?
Yes.
I don't like Leonard Fournette, so probably not. Even though
I might have that offer in my inbox. I might be asking for Fournette.
Yeah, I mean, the 0 RB guy I am. I've probably drafted no Fournette this offseason, so I would say no. I've got too much Rashad White to be invested in Leonard Fournette. That's a counterweight to what I'm trying to get done this season.
I visited the Sizzler recently, so I will say yes. And again, this is assuming we're talking dynasty, you've got to be in the hunt for a title to do that. Otherwise, I'd say no. But if you're in the hunt for a title, I think all the usage signs are there for Lenny to be having a monster season as soon as Tampa Bay kind of gets their act together.
Yeah, that feels like the crossover point, though, JD. That feels about fair for both sides if you're doing running back wide receiver swaps.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd say trade wise, it probably does sound pretty even. Leonard's just not my guy.
What about the other way, guys? Lenny, maybe a guy not for Zach, but if anyone else looking for running back, maybe a little buy low right now because he hasn't been huge the first 3 weeks. Neither has Tampa's offense overall. But anyone, I'll go to you first, Zach. Anyone that you see as a value right now after 3?
So are we? I'm just asking this question now. Are we heading into the sell high buy low portion of our notes? Because I do have those written down.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say this sounds more like a buy low question, so I'll go with my buy low. My buy low is actually going to be Travis Etienne. A lot of people were drafting him in the 3rd round near the end of the draft season. He has definitely not returned that value as he's a running back 38 and points per game right now at 9.1. We know James Robinson is an RB3. So I would say, we can't really deny that Etienne's usage has definitely been disappointed. And then the scoring is aligning perfectly with his usage. He's also the running back 38 in expected fantasy points. So he's really just kind of doing exactly what we've expected with that volume. But I think he remains one of the higher end handcuffs in the league. I thought this when I thought Jacksonville's offense was kind of just going to be more of a middling offense, but they look good through 3 weeks. They should be, like I said, 3-0. They beat the Chargers on the road. I think he's a good high-end handcuff. There's frustrated fantasy owners out there who are probably going to be willing to move on from him if they're not getting the production from him that they're looking for, and someone floats a wide receiver their way. So my buy low would be Travis Etienne, just as a high upside handcuff. If you have a lot of receivers and you can afford to part with one of them, go.
Look at that. We're talking Etienne. Look who just pops up. What a coincidence. His ears must have been.
That's my boy. You let me on.
Perfect.
ETN season is still going to happen at some point this year.
It is.
Do not lose faith in ETN, and also I don't know. James Robinson's not going to hold up. Come on. Let's be serious. James Robinson's top 5 running back right now. Andrew and I are sitting on an ETN share on a main event team, and I'm willing to bet that we're going to be really happy we have him in over the next few weeks. Maybe it takes a little longer, but there'll be some smash games for ETN.
Yeah, I think so.
This was a hell of a show to show up to. I'm just so glad.
I was going to say, we just spent the first 14 minutes talking Jacksonville. What a coincidence.
So great.
You must love
it. A Dan Williamson special right there, too.
Right,
loves Little Peterson.
Yeah. I think it's great. I mean, having watched every single second of the Jaguars while seeing James Robinson do well, it's very clearly who's the most explosive on the field. Mm-hmm. Love 4th down math when we went for it on 4th and 1 from the 50-ish, right, where James Robinson broke off that huge run. That was awesome. Screaming fourth down math. But obviously that was like one big run. Where obviously they, more or less in goal line defense on the 50, the Chargers were. So I think that there's still a lot of bright days ahead for ETN. I think it's only looking up. And while I'm excited about the start, agree with Zach on should be 3-0. There's gonna be, it's not gonna be all roses for the Jaguars. They're gonna have to be in more passing situations, and I think ETN has been on the field for all of those, third down and passing situations, or not all, but using how I live my life, if everything's either the best or the worst. So I'll let it stand as called. ETN's been on the field for all of them. I mean, I think he's moved going forward. The Jaguars won't win every single game from here on out. Would be a lot cooler if they did, but they won't.
Theo, you dropped a couple ridiculous shows today. You sat with Davis Maddock and your weekly OG Livewire. Tell the peeps maybe a bit of what they missed, and we can lead into our waiver wire darlings.
So we're doing this waiver wire show on Tuesdays. I write an article on Player Profiler, and I look at a lot of the same players. I'm trying to keep it at 25% or less rostered in Yahoo leagues, which usually will end up being about, like, I'd say 75% of the players that I talk about, we will be able to add in waivers in like our deeper FFPC and FFC formats. And then we've actually had back-to-back weeks now with press coverage. Dan had a good one with Nelson Sousa last week. And then this week, today, actually, I was able to get on with Davis Maddock. It was a really fun talk. So we're dropping some of these press coverages. It's not a set date, but we'll have a few more in the rotation as the season goes on. So we're really bringing you a lot in the GOAT District. We got Zach on tonight. Zach is like Mount Rushmore at this point. I think this is like fourth time on for you, Zach.
Did he do a tailgate last year? He was trying to remember. I can't remember.
I think he did. I think this is.
I thought he did too.
I probably did, honestly. I don't remember at the moment. So, but no, I've been on here a good bit. But I love coming on. You guys do a great show.
It's a nice balancing act where Zach either is on for 45 minutes or he's on for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes I prepare. I always try to prepare for my shows, obviously. But like sometimes I'll prepare for the show, but then we'll just start talking ball and just it very quickly evolves into just shooting the shit for a couple hours and like. When I'm free, I have no problem with that. It's awesome. So it's been a good time.
Yep. Awesome.
What
waiver wire this week? I mean, I haven't talked to as much about the guys we've gotten. I got a lot of. I'm interested to hear what Zach has to say about Craig Reynolds, Tristan Ebner, and Justice Hill, who I think are all three interesting guys that kind of we didn't have on our radar at all when it came to late August, early September. And now three, we can kind of squint and you see a path for all three.
Yeah, the Ebner one I haven't really come around on, although I think it's just I haven't really considered it. So that's actually a really good call. I'll probably pass the torch to you on that one to get your takes on it because I'd be interested in hearing them. But you mentioned Craig Reynolds and Justice Hill. You want to talk about another Achilles guy who appears to be breaking the stigma. Justice Hill falls in that category after I think it was last year he tore his Achilles and missed the season when every Ravens running back dating back to Jamal Lewis somehow got injured. So Justice Hill torn Achilles. He had a decent game last week against the Patriots. I think he had 6 carries for 60 yards or something in that neighborhood. He had a big run off the left side of the field. Really looked like a solid running back for probably one of the first few times in his 3 or 4 year career. I told someone earlier, I think that at least temporarily speaking, Justice Hill is probably the running back to own behind J.K. Dobbins while we wait for Gus Edwards to come back. I think Edwards is coming back. He's been posting on Instagram suggesting that he's close. He's on the IR list is where you still have to miss at least 4 weeks. So that's up after this week for him. We could really entertain the idea of Gus Edwards returning. So if he's available in your league, you could even consider stashing him. But I do think that Justice Hill could have some staying power as an RB2 behind Dobbins. Certainly, we know that Dobbins could re-injure that leg again. Hopefully not, but it wasn't a good injury for him. It was one of the worst, or on the worst side of being an ACL tear. So that wasn't good for him. Took him a while to get back. And then Craig Reynolds, I guess you're a real zero RB sicko when you're like celebrating getting Craig Reynolds at 10:30 p.m. on an FFPC league. I got Craig Reynolds in 3 FFPC leagues the other day. I got all of them, and I mean he could be the pass catcher back. I know Jamal Williams has displayed a little bit of pass catching upside. I'll be interested to see how much the Lions actually lean on Williams because I mean earlier on, it was Williams taking some of that key work from DeAndre Swift. I think that Williams will still have a lot of the high value touches down in the red zone, down near the goal line. He has 4 rushing touchdowns on the season, but I do think that there's going to be some work for Craig Reynolds to get in there. Williams only has 4 catches for 29 yards. My question is how much of that was because Swift was healthy, or how much of that is because he's just not as good of a pass catcher as they would like, and could Craig Reynolds perhaps find his way into that role? Because we've seen Craig Reynolds, catch passes before and be somewhat of a serviceable receiver. So I think Craig Reynolds is a very interesting player in all PPR formats. Might not necessarily start him this week if I don't have to, but I think he's well worth a stash.
The last time that they were together, this is per John Daigle, another friend of the show, the last time that it was a Williams and Reynolds backfield, it was 1914 touches Williams to Reynolds.
Oh. So,
and it was towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
And that's a good one, JD. The Macho Man Randy Savage. I love it. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think like if we could get that this weekend, especially with potentially no Amon-Ra St. Brown, they might have to lean on the backs a little more. Maybe Craig Reynolds catches 4 or 5 balls, and you get rewarded with 10 points or so. But go ahead, Andrew. What was your take on the Reynolds?
No, classic Andrew nonsense. Was going to give a lot of credit to the sly joke that Zach had about saying 10:30 when FFPC waivers run, and not 10:01 like a properly functioning waiver system should be.
It was passive aggressive. Zach was passive aggressive.
That was so good, and I want to give you full credit for that.
Thank you.
How do you guys even get it that early? I mean, I've tried on the app. I've tried on the laptop. I can't get anything until
I don't either.
All the main events are
I'll
done
go to
by
bed and I'll
10:30.
find out in the morning.
I'm like you, and now I just go to bed. I'm like, forget it. I'm not waiting. It's like 10:40.
I can go look at my roster and see if the guys appeared, but I can't tell how much anybody went for, or
those reports are massively delayed. Those are weird, but on one roster in particular, it's a disgusting 0 RB roster. We're only about 50 points out of first, so I'm happy there. But I've been starting like Mike Davis and Rashad White. I even had Brandon Bolden in my lineup last week because I just have no running backs on this team. So I was burning the midnight oil to find out if I at least landed the coveted Craig Reynolds.
Yes.
I actually thought when you were talking about my joke, I thought you were pointing out my tweet from earlier today. I told my wife I got Craig Reynolds, and she asked if that's a plumber. She asked if that's a plumber our friend recommended.
I wanted to bring that up.
I'm sorry. I did see that too, and I'm glad you gave yourself credit for your own. That's like a verbal retweet. I love that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but go get it. I need the engagement.
I had it in my notes to bring it up, and I just I love that. That's a great tweet.
Andrew, you should brag about our winning bid in our shared FFPC main event team where we won Craig Reynolds, and maybe tell everybody.
Was it for 92 versus 91 or 91 versus 90?
It was 91 versus 90.
Oh, wonderful.
And a hat tip to Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, for giving us the winning number, which we're now revealing on air. But it won us Craig Reynolds. So when he becomes, when he smashes for 2 years in a row, then that's going to be like the bid of the year to win by $1.
I think did we up it? Because I don't even know if we talked about it. I think we just mind melded a little bit because I think that you went in there and then I went in there and I think we just kept upping it and we finally landed on that number with no words.
So
between the two of us.
I got him for 71. The bid under me was 68.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that one.
I got him for 41 in a couple places.
Perfect.
So
yeah.
Well,
does anyone
guys
just
more money than Theo and I? Okay.
Does anyone just check these fabs and they're like, "Am I the idiot for bidding on this guy?" Because these are not high stakes leagues. I should preface with saying these are not high stakes leagues. These are $35 FFPC classics. They're literally just your run of the mill redraft league. But I think in 2 of the leagues where I got Craig Reynolds, I think I was the only person who bid on him. I could have bid $1 on one.
There is a couple leagues that I'm in. He's still on the waiver wire.
Yeah, it's because of the name. It just kind of like Russell Gage isn't a very exciting name. People slept on him. There's people who sleep on boring names like Greg Dortch. Like that's not a guy you're drafting. His name is Greg Dortch. Like Craig Reynolds falls into that boring name category. No one cares. He has to literally explode and outperform his name, unfortunately, for Craig Reynolds. So that could happen this week in Seattle.
Will Dissly might be the Craig Reynolds of tight ends.
Yeah,
Will Dissly. Yeah. He's like he's like the team manager. If you were like, oh, his name's Will Dissly, but he actually is like tight end 11 right now.
Yeah, Gary Barnage. Who?
Yes, Gary Barnage.
Once upon a
It's
time.
awful. That's awful.
Yeah, just a lumbering farmer named Gary Barnage who happens to catch passes for the Cleveland Browns and randomly break out at the age of 47 or whatever. Like, yeah,
he was awesome.
I'm sure they discovered him in an open tryout. He was like Vince Papale of Cleveland.
Dude, he's
got 120 acres of soybeans, though. Come on.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, you can't sleep on that.
Yeah.
He breaks the farmer. He breaks the farmer model.
Yes.
All right, guys. Like our buddy Wheeler said, smash the like, smash the subscribe if you're not part of the show. Help us get to 1,000 subs, guys. Pass the show on to one other person. We've already got like close to 600 subs. Let's get this thing double it up. Help us out. Get some exposure. The whole YouTube calculation thing that you always hear about. Help us out with that. But let's get back to football. Zach, we talked on Monday on the Monday night tailgate. Just what game we're excited to see, which one we find the most interesting. How about you this weekend? What are you liking for week 4?
I mean, is there an answer that's not Ravens and Bills? Like, we're robbed because it's not a primetime game. I think that's because the Bills have already had 2 out of their first 3 games in the primetime, but they goofed by not doing this one in the primetime. Ravens and Bills, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, literally, probably 2 of the top 3 MVP candidates right now. This is a potential AFC Championship game preview. Should be a shootout. And then there's lots of fantasy points that could be involved in this one. The Ravens, bless their heart, they cannot stop the pass. Devontae Parker had, I believe it was 5 catches of 20-plus yards last week. That's probably matching his career high in a single game. So that was just crazy to see. We know that the Bills are going to be capable of doing a lot more damage than that. Hopefully Gabe Davis is healthy. I believe he missed practice today or he was limited. But it's going to be a shootout. It's like I said, it's a shame it's a 1:00 game. Not everyone's even going to get a chance to see it, but I'm super excited for Ravens Bills.
I like it.
What's the weather? What's the weather looking like? Because I know that isn't that like kind of the X factor with this. The Ravens Bills could be like a 35-33 game, or it could be a sloppy 21-17 gross one.
It's in Baltimore, correct?
Yeah.
I'll get my boots on the ground here real quick if someone else wants to talk over me. But
nice.
I'll go on the weather.com here. I am local. Right now the weather's fine. I have some plans on Saturday. I'm roughly about an hour from Baltimore for what it's worth.
I mean, I hate to have more Jaguars talk, but it's the Super Bowl that never was. The Jaguars,
or that could be,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The once in future Super Bowl. We were robbed. Those who know the Myles Jack was never down game with Jaguars versus Patriots and that AFC Championship game. No, I mean again, no more Jaguars talk. Just trying to kill some time for Zach to get to
Let's answer a couple more questions while Zach's checking. We got Screekant Ready Nanga asking about Deontay Foreman or Rashad White. I think it's got to be Rashad White, no?
Yeah. It obviously depends on if McCaffrey plays. If McCaffrey doesn't play, then it's Foreman.
If this is for 1 week, Foreman probably.
Maybe specify if you mean like rest of the season or if it's for the weekend.
Yeah,
I think Shreecamp means
the season.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's Rashad White. I don't even think you want to be starting Panthers if it's not
Lawrence or Wilson.
Ooh,
Lawrence.
Yeah, Lawrence versus Detroit. That might. I'm sorry, not Lawrence versus Detroit. I'm thinking of
Eagles.
Thinking of Seahawks and Lions. Who's Lawrence play this week?
He's
Eagles. This is Lawrence for this week, Lawrence for rest of season, and Lawrence for their career.
Yes,
by the way,
I agree with you. By the way,
for all 3.
Yeah, it probably is.
I enjoyed the Donovan McNabb Washington Redskins era. You're getting to see Russell Wilson in Denver. It's not much different right now.
No, it's pretty much the exact same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you really can't tell the difference, which is sad. By the way, rain in Baltimore is about 75% chance. It might actually be sloppy. Hopefully not.
Zach Wheeler wants to meet up. Wheeler wants to meet you for a beer somewhere.
Oh, he's out in Towson.
We're just here uniting Fantasyland.
Yeah, Wheeler, you can slide in my DMs. We can chat and try to link up.
Nice.
Towson's a good time. Shout out to Wheeler. There's a few good spots around there.
Yep.
Dan, while I was locked up in corporate land the last 48, you came up with some sweet ass questions. So why don't you take it from here?
All right. So we asked this the other night, but let's ask it again of Zach. We're about a quarter of the way through the fantasy regular season almost already. What team's been your biggest disappointment, Zach, fantasy wise, and is there any hope they can turn it around?
I'd like to think they can turn this around, but it doesn't look great with who their quarterback is right now. So I got the 49ers as the biggest disappointment. Shocked to read some of these numbers. We'll see if they raise any eyebrows for you all. But obviously we know Trey Lance is gone. Jimmy Garoppolo is in. If that's not enough to just burst you into tears, George Kittle has played in 1 of 3 games. He should be back, but he's played in 1 of 3 games. We know Elijah Mitchell is out. I was surprised to see that Deebo Samuel, through 3 weeks in PPR leagues, has not had a top 12 week or a top 24 week, and he was literally like a first, late, second-round draft pick. So Deebo Samuel is just destroying people's hopes and dreams right now. Brandon Ayuk, he's a wide receiver, 55 in points per game right now in PPR leagues. And then at the end of this note, I put WTF are we doing ? Question marks. So the 49ers for me have just been just painful. And now we're going to hope that Jimmy G can somehow breathe some life into this offense. I think that there's going to have to be a way that they're going to need to get Deebo Samuel more involved. I know he's been seeing some opportunities as a running back. Hopefully that kind of continues, but there's a lot of high draft capital invested in 49ers players, and they're simply just not returning it. So my biggest disappointment through 3 weeks is easily the 49ers.
And no Trent Williams now, so that's
no Trent Williams. That's like an injury to insult. I guess it's how I would phrase that. Like they've been rough.
Yeah, hopefully Kittle's nickname doesn't turn into Chip.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
I mean, they have.
I actually have a points per chip league.
Yes.
I don't mind.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, you gotta. I'll let you know how you can get that setting plugged in.
All right. How about a team that's exceeded your expectations, Zach, as a source of fantasy points?
Yeah, man, we're just going to talk about them all day, but it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback 10. James Robinson, running back 3. Christian Kirk, wide receiver 7. Even Zay Jones, who was basically undrafted except for maybe after the first preseason game, where I think in the first preseason game, Lawrence targeted him like 3 or 4 times on the first drive, and all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, Zay Jones might actually be a thing. Maybe we should draft him. Pretty much outside of the month of August, Zay Jones, I think, was going more or less undrafted. He's a wide receiver 29 in PPR points per game right now, and it's not like it's like a fluky thing. Like, he's actually seeing legitimate volume. So the Jaguars, for me, have exceeded expectations. I already mentioned earlier that looking at the strength of schedule through the remainder of the season, their quarterbacks and wide receivers have roughly middle-of-the-road matchups, not great, but not terrible. And then right now, per the strength of schedule app again on RotoViz, running backs have the second easiest remaining schedule. So if you want to try to see if someone will let you get your hands on Travis Etienne on the cheap, go ahead and do that. But yeah, the Jaguars, I mean, they've surprised everybody.
Yeah, and here's the key: get Zay Jones as a throw-in on any dynasty trade you can, because most people think it's not sustainable or whatever. But if you look at the Doug Peterson offense, I mean, he's always spreading it around amongst receivers. I mean, honest to God, if I could sell Christian Kirk and I could get Zay Jones plus Travis Etienne or something like that, I would absolutely do that.
And Zay Jones isn't there on like a 1-year deal. I think they signed him to a 3-year contract in the offseason. Which is just insane. Like, no one. You want to talk about a team that literally spent a bunch of money on wide receiver that no one saw coming. The Christian Kirk thing was surprising in itself. Then all of a sudden, the Jaguars were like, "Yeah, we'll give Zay Jones a 3-year deal. Of course we will." And that's gone well. Like, they've actually used him. So if this all goes well, Zay Jones could be with the Jaguars as a decent low end wide receiver 3 for the next 2 seasons after this one.
The Jaguars
they got bashed. They got.
No good. No good.
No, saying they got bashed for it. Like, people were so angry about the Kirk and Jones deals, and now you've got Christian Kirk, who's a legitimate top 15 wide receiver. He's got 3 touchdowns, and then you got Zay Jones, who's like wide receiver 29 right now or something.
Yeah.
So like both those guys, like they both fit exactly what they signed them to do so far. So hats off to them.
Yeah.
They won my Clark Griswold. If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn under the carpet, I couldn't be more surprised than I am right now. Award of the year, the old Christmas Vacation quote.
Yes,
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
That's it. In fairness to Zay Jones, that 3-year contract might be a better magic act than his like rising up off the turf.
That was him, wasn't it?
Yes.
He levitated.
Yes,
Yeah.
he levitated.
Yeah, that was.
Hey, you guys want to hear the new sound for the show?
Nice.
There you go.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it.
Big cats are on the prowl.
All right. So, how about Arizona versus Carolina? This is a clash of two of the most underwhelming offenses we can think of, I think. I mean, Arizona, I think we actually had hopes for. Carolina, we might have had hopes at least for DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. What do you think, Zach? Can either team get their act together this week?
Man, my hopes are awfully low for Carolina. Good for them that they beat the Saints this past weekend. But Baker Mayfield is just he's a shell of himself, which I didn't think was even going to be fully possible. Like I thought that he was honestly going to show similar to what he did last year in Cleveland pre shoulder injury or whatever it was. Like he was going to be like a serviceable guy. He's going to be able to find a way to use McCaffrey in space and get the ball downfield. I thought that after week 1 that there was actually going to be a Robbie Anderson Baker Mayfield connection, and that was basically a one hit wonder so far. And then DJ Moore has been relegated basically to like the minor leagues almost. Like they don't use him at all hardly. He's been just wildly disappointed. So my hopes are low for Carolina. Unfortunately, it sucks because they do have so many good fantasy assets, but Baker Mayfield seemed to all but ruin those. And then for Arizona, I think at some point in time they have to get right. This sounds crazy, probably, but I do wonder how much these slow starts, like on a week-to-week basis, are actually messing with Kyler Murray's head. Like so he gets that whole contract signed with the team, right? And then it's disclosed that there's that weird video clause in the contract, which basically suggests like he's not, pulling his weight, doing what he needs to do to get the team right. And then he comes out, he starts slow, it doesn't look good, and I just think there's obviously Cliff Kingsbury needs to get things together, and it's going to be helpful when the offense is healthy. But I do wonder if there's anybody or if Kyler Murray has like a little bit of like something going on in his head where it's just these slow starts like plaguing him. Like, what are people thinking? What are people saying? Because it's not good. I think they get right eventually, but it's been an ugly start.
Yeah, for sure.
Am I crazy on my Kyler take? Is that like way off?
No, I don't. I think there's
It's
something
a weird
there,
thing
but
to have people know. Like to me, like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I wouldn't want people knowing about like that my team thinks that way about me if I was in that position. So whenever I see him struggle, I'm like, is he in his head? Like I don't know.
I think I'm blaming Kingsbury more than I'm blaming Kyler.
I'm blaming PlayStation personally.
Yeah, Kyler also had a really weird quote the other day after last week's game where he basically suggested that the rest of his team isn't paying attention to what he's doing. Did you see this quote?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it was basically like everyone needs to keep their head on a swivel because he's free to do whatever he wants in the offense, and like basically saying like if my team's not prepared for me to do something and look their way off the cuff, then we're gonna lose. And I was kind of like, you've not been particularly good. So I don't know if you need to throw your team under the bus with that quote, but it was weird. Arizona is a very weird place right now. There's a lot of weird vibes coming out there, in my opinion.
They just need Rondale back. Then everything's better.
Yeah, Rondale.
He's going to solve it all.
They are you.
Hopkins in the building.
They are your rosters.
Everyone needs good Rondale back and good Kyler, please.
Yeah.
It's very tilting this game. I could see.
Just grab Rondale and Nuke and just start Rondale until Nuke comes back. That's not working quite like it sounded it would.
Yeah, the trick with starting Rondale is he has to be active. That's what I heard.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The thing about that plan is,
yeah, he got me 0 points in week 1. I was told to start him. But
Right.
I didn't realize he had to overcome being inactive. It's tough sledding.
I think the problem for me is Arizona's been if like their first half has just been non-existent. They haven't been scoring at all in the first halves.
Yeah.
And I think that this could be a potential get-right game. Like, I think Carolina's like could get pushed over a cliff. This could be like the Matt Rule gets fired game. Like, for as off as Kyler Murray has been, he's still a top 12 quarterback. He still had his just moments of brilliance. You think about the 2-point conversion touchdown where he ran like 85 yards and got in the end zone. And he has a connection with Hollywood right now, where Hollywood got, I think like last week was like a realization that, hey, I'm going to target Hollywood every single time. And he got 17 targets and he had, I believe, 14 catches. So I think that they could be turning a corner in terms of a few things stylistically. And I think this Carolina is like a perfect team for them to play, because as bad as the Arizona has looked, you take Christian McCaffrey away from Baker Mayfield right now, and we keep talking about like Deonta Foreman or Chuba Hubbard. If people trying to figure out that, it might be just stay the hell away. It's going to be a split, and both guys have like 8 points. And Arizona, I could see beating them by double digits. As bad as Arizona's been, this could be a get right situation.
Yeah,
Arizona plus 1.5 right now in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's in
Arizona
Carolina.
plus 1.5.
Yep, looking at it right now.
Yeah, I mean, go hit that money line.
Exactly.
Bang the money
Baker
line.
Mayfield plays for the Panthers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's insane. Actually, I can't believe it. I'm gonna go drive to Virginia and make a bet on my silly DraftKings app when I'm done this podcast.
just call Wheeler and use Wheeler's guide.
Okay.
Wheeler can get there a little faster, I think.
Yeah, that's
Wheeler's
perfect.
probably got 15 bookies in the Towson, Baltimore area that would take a bet.
Yes.
He totally does.
All right. So we've had this on the show sheet for about 3 shows. We haven't used it yet, so I got to ask Zach, how will the Jets passing game be affected when Zach Wilson returns? What are you expecting?
Not much. See, we all got super excited, and I think we were treated to a good couple of weeks of Joe Flacco. As strange as that sounds, like the Joe Flacco aerial assault has been legitimately insane through the first 3 weeks. 154 pass attempts for like the 37, 38-year-old Joe Flacco. Attempts of 59, 44, and 51 yards. He's just been funneling the ball to one receiver after another, 285 yards or more in every single game. Garrett Wilson is really humming. I think he's kind of the one that's benefited the most from this. We're still kind of waiting on Elijah Moore. And then Corey Davis even had a decent week 1 game. I think that was against the Ravens, where he was even peppered with targets. And kind of like Zay Jones, now people were targeting Corey Davis in drafts, and he had a 9-target game in week 1. So I've got a lot of questions about Zach Wilson coming back. I don't think he's particularly good. I don't think that there's been a lot to hang your hat on with him, dating back to when he was drafted as a number 2 overall pick. Not the best camp reports at times, and just careless with the ball. The turnovers last year when he returned. I worry that the Jets are going to take a hit for a couple different reasons. One, I don't think Zach Wilson's the most accurate of passers. I think drives are going to become shorter with the Jets. He turns the ball over. Hopefully he's fixed that. If he hasn't, though, we're in trouble there. 11 interceptions in 13 games plus a fumble lost last season as a rookie. So Zach Wilson needs to show a lot of growth, I think, for this Jets wide receiver team to not take a step back. But I'm hesitant. If anything, I'm probably propping up the receivers or the running backs a little bit more. Whether it's Michael Carter or Breece Hall, I think that he's going to be a little bit more inclined to check down to his running backs in the passing game. We already saw them getting a decent amount of work through the first 3 weeks in the passing game. I think that would be the thing that's most likely to continue, while I'll be a little bit hesitant on the wide receivers going forward. Certainly, you're starting Garrett Wilson. You're probably starting Elijah Moore, even if it's as a flex. But I'll be interested to see what happens. My expectations are low.
Yeah,
the people. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Joe Flacco doing his best Ryan Fitzpatrick imitation has been fantastic so far.
Yeah, if he grows out a bushy beard and has like some crazy button-down shirts, he's really working it.
He's gotta phone up Gardner Minshew and see if he can help him out a little bit or something.
Get him a headband.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
So I'm actually interested in a potential Elijah Moore bounce back. last year they had no connection. Wilson and Moore were not clicking, but you had Moore missing games and you also had Wilson missing games. They didn't have, a ton of time together. But the offseason narrative in Jets camp was Elijah Moore is this clear number one. Garrett Wilson looks good, but we're going to have all these wide receivers, available, and Zach Wilson has taken a step forward. I think that for me, the worry would be a potential slight downgrade for Conklin and a potential slight downgrade for the amount of targets to the running backs. But I am hopeful that this could be an Elijah Moore bounce back. I don't think it does anything to Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson's the real deal. I think he's a wide receiver 3 that'll have big spike weeks occasionally. And I think that Elijah Moore would be the one where I would expect in the next couple games Elijah Moore has a really good game. He had double-digit targets last week. He hasn't cracked like 45 yards all season. Yeah. But you could just see Elijah Moore and Zach Wilson's first game back, going 7 for 85 and a touchdown, something like that.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that. I've actually seen that one floating around a little bit, like the Wilson-Moore connection was real.
I'm talking it into existence on Twitter. I've been really trying to get the propaganda going.
Well, talking things into existence on Twitter is one of the higher success rates in fantasy Twitter. It's actually 100% success rate, so it could happen. I pulled up their splits real quick just out of curiosity. In 7 games, Zach Wilson targeted Elijah Moore on average 7 targets a game. He's pacing for 119 targets on the season last year. That's pretty insane. We certainly wouldn't complain about that. He only had 51 receptions, average 3 a game. That's pretty bad. That's going to need to come up. 28.86 yards per game with Wilson under center. That's going to need to come up. But the targets are at least a good starting point. I think if we can mesh that with what you also said in camp this year, a lot of things sounded really good. And then hopefully Wilson's at least better. Like I don't think it's going to be just, a total dud. But if he's not good, then things get a little bit rough out there. But if he's a little bit better, if he's able to get a little bit more accurate on his passes and not miss more on 50% of his targets, then things could be good. So I've seen that narrative, and I like it. I do like it, actually.
Zach, we're at 8:05. I know you want to go grab your popcorn, your Shirley Temple for the big game. Answer Rob Fisher's.
My Virgin Shirley Temple.
Rob Fisher's got a quick one for you. Maybe answer his question and then remind the peeps where they can find all the Krueger goodness.
Emori, Romeo Dubes are. If Dubes is starting, I'm going with him in the flex. He was actually a legitimate target last week for Aaron Rodgers, who is currently being starved of legitimate targets in Green Bay. So the fact that he actually had a chance to play, to start, to see some significant work last week against the Bucs, I'm definitely going back to the Romeo Dubes. 8 targets, 8 receptions, 73 yards, and a touchdown last week against the Buccaneers. I don't know how you put the toothpaste back in the tube with him, even if you do like Alan Lazard or if Christian Watson's healthy. I think you got to kind of keep rolling with Dubes and go with someone who's actually looked good in the limited opportunities he's gotten. So I would go with Dubes in the flex.
Rolling with Dubes, there is no better advice than that.
There really isn't. Rolling with Dubes, he'll smoke the competition.
Yes.
You can find all my work over at Rotoworld, NBCSportsEdge.com. Powered by Rotoworld, I think is how we're currently saying it, but NBCSportsEdge.com. You can find all my work over there. Doing mostly college football, honestly. I'm doing a weekly Dynasty article as being the college football guy over at Rotoworld. That's kind of my NFL contribution. And then I'm blurbing games. You'll never know which games I'm blurbing, but I'm blurbing games this year with them as well. So that's fun too. So check out the blurbs on Rotoworld too. You'll see me funneling those through.
Nice. Appreciate you, Zach. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the game tonight, guys. You guys were live in the chat, and we love it. We appreciate you guys. Remember, smash that like, share the show with your friends, with your peeps. Enjoy the weekend, guys. Good luck in week 4, and we'll check you all later.
District, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offer's the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Anyone got a good prop bet for tonight? A little prop bet tip here for.
Davis Maddock has like 115 to 1 that he's pushing. That's like a 6-teamer that he said on the last one. I told him to tweet it out. I couldn't even remember it. It was like the Bengals team total, Jalen Waddle over, and then like 4 other things. I can't remember. I was like, you got to. I can't.